Welcome to the Embers Archive. Tonight, we journey to a city unlike any other, a place built not on earth or stone, but within the colossal, petrified remains of a fallen god. Welcome to Ossium. For centuries, its people have thrived among the bleached white bones. They shop in the markets of the ribcage district, their voices echoing between the curved arches of ancient cartilage. The ruling council resides in the cranial citadel. Their decrees issued from within the hollowed-out skull. Life in Ossium is defined by structure, permanence, and tradition as unyielding as the skeleton that houses them. And their magic, bone weaving, is a reflection of this. It is a subtle, demanding art. A weaver can mend a fractured vertebra in a bridge or smooth a weathered pathway in the tibia tunnels, but only with direct touch. They cannot create new bone, only reshape what already exists. And the price is steep. Each use of their power brings a creeping stiffness to their own body, a slow calcification that turns a weaver's joints to stone if they are not careful. It's a magic of preservation, not creation, a power that has kept Ossium standing for 1,000 years. But now, the bones are groaning. Elara is not a weaver. She's a structural surveyor, a cartographer of the city's deepest and most forgotten corners. She trusts calipers and plumb lines, not magic. Her hands are calloused from stone and rope, her joints supple and free. She preferred it that way. Her work took her to the vertebral sprawl, a towering residential district stacked high upon the spine of the ancient being. Lately, the sprawl had been plagued by unsettling tremors. Not the deep, geological shifts she knew, but something sharp, something brittle. She was inspecting a stress fracture near the base of the L4 vertebra, a crack thin as a hair, but miles deep in its implications when she first met him. Kale was a weaver, but not like the ones she knew from the Citadel Stiff. Formal figures who moved with pained deliberation. He moved with a strange, almost unnatural fluidity, his hands bare as he traced the fissure in the bone. His face was etched with a concentration that bordered on pain, his brow glistening with sweat despite the cool air of the understructure. "You're a surveyor," he stated, not a question. His voice was rough, tired. He pulled his hand back from the wall, flexing his fingers as if fighting off a cramp. "You see the cracks, but do you feel the tension? The whole structure, it's pulled too tight." Elara adjusted her spectacles. "Tension is a constant. We live in a skeleton. It settles." Kale shook his head, a wry smile touching his lips. "This isn't settling. This is straining. Like a bowstring pulled back 1 inch too far. Something is going to snap." He gestured to the fracture she was mapping. "This isn't a natural stress point. It's a symptom." Before she could press him, a deep, grinding roar echoed up from the foundation. Dust rained from the ceiling, a web of new cracks spider-webbed across the vertebra. Panic erupted from the apartments above, a distant chorus of screams. This was no tremor. This was a prelude to collapse. Kale grabbed her arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "We have to go now." He didn't run towards the nearest exit, but deeper into the understructure, pulling her through a service tunnel she hadn't even known existed. The tunnel opened into a hidden cavern, a hollowed-out space within the pelvic girdle. And here, Elara saw the source of the strain. A dozen weavers stood in a circle, their hands pressed against the bone walls. A low, resonant hum filled the air, and the bone around them glowed with a faint, sickly luminescence. They weren't mending. They were hardening the bone, trying to reinforce it, to make it even stronger. Kale pulled her behind a pillar of calcified marrow. "They call themselves the Ossifians," he whispered, his voice tight with anger. "A Hodgcow sect. They believe tradition isn't enough. They think they can perfect the city, make the skeleton eternally strong by weaving petrification into its very essence." Alara's mind reeled. But that's not how it works. Bone weaving reshapes. It doesn't add density. All they're doing is making it more brittle. They're creating the tension, not relieving it. "Exactly," Kale confirmed, a grim look on his face. "They are so obsessed with preventing the city from ever changing. They are going to shatter it. I was one of them. I saw the flaws in their logic, the tiny fractures their improvements were causing. When I spoke out, they branded me a traitor. I've been trying to counteract their work, easing the tension where I can, but they are too many." As he spoke, the lead weaver, a severe-looking woman with arms so calcified they looked like marble, called out a command. The hum intensified, a loud crack like a thunderclap ripped through the cavern. A massive fissure tore across the ceiling. The Ossifians cried out, their ritual broken, as chunks of bone began to fall. "They've gone too far," Cale said, his jaw set. "The L4 is going to give way. The whole scroll will come down." He looked at Elara, his expression desperate. "I can't stop this alone. Their focused hardening has created a knot of tension too great for me to unravel. But you see the structure. You know its weaknesses, its key stress points." Elara's heart pounded, not with fear, but with a sudden, terrifying clarity. She looked from the collapsing cavern to Cale's determined face. He wasn't asking her to use magic. He was asking her to use her knowledge. He saw the city as a living, straining thing. She saw it as a structure of angles and forces. Together, they might have a chance. "The load-bearing archways," she said, her voice finding its strength. "If we can release the pressure at the three main junctions of the L3 and L5 vertebrae, we might be able to redirect the stress. It won't fix the damage, but it could buy us time. It could stop the immediate collapse." Cale nodded, a spark of hope in his eyes. "Show me where." They moved as one, a symphony of science and magic. Elara didn't need maps. The blueprints of the city were etched into her memory. She would race to a specific point, a juncture of bone and cartilage invisible to the untrained eye, and slam her hand against it. "Here!" she'd yell, and Cale would follow, placing his own hands on the spot, his face contorting as he channeled his power. He wasn't hardening, he was softening, gently, precisely. He coaxed the ancient bone to yield, to flex just enough to release the catastrophic tension the Ossifians had created. With each weave, the tremors lessened, but the cost to Cale was immense. The joints in his fingers began to lock, his movements growing more labored. He was sacrificing his own mobility to grant it back to the city. As he released the pressure on the final juncture, he collapsed, his body rigid. The groaning of the skeleton ceased, replaced by an exhausted silence. Elara knelt beside him, helping him sit up. He could barely move his arms. "We did it," she breathed, looking at his hands, now stiff and gnarled. "Cale?" He managed a weak smile. "The city is still standing." He looked at her, his gaze clear. "It needs to change, Elara. Not by force, like the Ossifians, but by adapting. It needs more people like you, people who understand that even the strongest structures must be allowed to flex." In the quiet aftermath, surrounded by the evidence of their desperate work, they had not just saved a district, they had exposed a dangerous philosophy and started a new conversation. The city of Ossium, built on the ideal of permanence, had been forced to bend, and in that moment of near destruction, a new path forward was found, not in unyielding tradition or radical change, but in the collaboration between the one who understood the structure and the one who could help it adapt. Thank you for joining us at the Embers Archive. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more original tales from worlds beyond our own. Until next time!